the equation E is equal mc squared, in which energy is put equal to mass multiplied with the square of the velocity of light, showed that very small amount of mass may be converted into a very large amount of energy, and vice versa. The mass and energy were in fact equivalent, according to the formula mentioned above. This was demonstrated by Proclas and Walton in 1932 experimentally.
You've got it right here. S4 with E squared in conjunction with Spaced Out Radio.
Alien contact. S4. UFOs. Bigfoot. 9/11. Grays. The Illuminati. Cover-ups. RH negative blood. What are they hiding from
Sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Now, the men behind the mics, Forest Moon Paranormal's Eric Cooper and the SOR Spacewire's Eric Markham. You can find more at spacedoutradio.com.
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
Now, let's travel into the universe. It's S4 with E squared.
All right, good evening, folks. Welcome to S4 with E squared here from the mountains and the Cascades of Washington State and Concrete, the headquarters of Forest Moon Paranormal, Forest Moon Grove, and, all the groups I run. We have myself, Eric Cooper, and Eric Markham from the mountains in North Carolina, our Spaced Out Radio Newswire expert and scientist. How you doing tonight, Markham?
Doing fine. How about you, Mr. Cooper?
All right. We might have some shady internet because it is snowing again now. And just to throw it in there, the opinions and views of S4 do not reflect that of Spaced Out Radio. Spaced Out Radio is our umbrella. And if you want the ultimate in paranormal radio shows, you've got to listen to Spaced Out Radio every Monday through Sunday, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, run by Dave Scott, Monday through Friday, and James Tyson on the weekends. Everything you want to know is right there in Spaced Out Radio at www.spacedoutradio.com. So, Wednesday, we are doing a special S4 episode. It's a kids episode. So if you have kids and they're into the paranormal, if they have paranormal questions, my 4- and 6-year-old will be on the show. We'll be asking them paranormal questions. It'll be at 4 p.m. Wednesday, Pacific Standard Time again. And it's just a kids tribute. It'll be fun. Also coming up in January, in conjunction with tonight's show. Tonight is featuring all 100 or so plus alien races that are mentioned throughout, the Alien Races book, multiple websites I've researched, multiple YouTube channels I've researched, and we're going to get to the Alien Races book. If you want a copy of it, it is free, which lends to me more credence to the guy that translated the book and published it. He published it and offered it free to anyone who wanted it. If he wanted to make money, he had the opportunity to make money because a publishing company offered him $30,000 to publish this book. So he could have made some money off it. But anyway, so we're covering all the alien races that have been documented. Now in January, I'm going to, in conjunction with this, do a fairy show. We're going to look at all the races of fairies throughout history. And I've started research on that for today. But we're going to do a comparison between some of the fairy races and some of the alien races and look at the similarities and see if some of the fairy races aren't indeed maybe alien. You never know. Then we're going to take that information and we're going to look at the comparison between haunting cases and fairy signs and the alien abduction signs and look at the similarities in there. So you're looking at an interesting January as well. January we'll start Paracon planning meetings, but we'll get to that January 1st for the 2017 episode. So what's new with you, Markham?
Oh, not much. Just another thrilling day in paradise here.
I hear you. Busy
Finally
day
got
at work.
the emergency room emptied out. Yeah, it's been a busy. It was steady from 6 o'clock when I clocked in until about 40 minutes ago.
I got you. I'm testing this out real quick. And then we're going to get right into alien species because there are so many. There's so much information to cover that it's going to be a full show. It's going to be a packed show. So getting right into it. What had happened was a guy named Dante Santori met a guy named what's his name? Petro. Met a guy named Petro. And Petro invited him on a road trip. They went to Petro's dad's house. And his dad asked them to go through the basement or a storage shed and throw away the garbage. Well, what turned out to be garbage was about 50 some odd boxes of classified documents. And within all these classified documents was this Alien Races book. And it's pretty eye-opening. Now, like I said earlier in the beginning of the show, what lends credence to me is, one, he didn't try to make money off the book at all. He felt it was beneficial to give society, I guess you could say. Instead of keeping it for himself or making money off it, he published it and put it out there for free. Now, upon looking at the book, I've gone through the entire book. A lot of those races that are in there, I've never heard of. But I've been in the UFO and alien abduction field for over 20 years. And a lot of what I found in there was like the Varginha, Brazil case where they actually had a UFO crash. The species is in there. It's in the book. And it talks about that particular case. You're talking about a book that was written back in the 40s. And a lot of the skeptics of the book complain about, hey, Trippin, how you doing tonight? Good to have you here. But a lot of the skeptics of this book, and Robert White, outstanding. You're starting to filter in. But a lot of the skeptics of the Alien Races book complained because the pictures of depicted in these races were taken from video games and movies and things like that. And as explained in the book, Dante explained that some of the species that are in this book could not be, there's no depiction of them. So what they did, they took, depictions closest to fit these species from video games and movies, and they put them in the book. So that explains that. Now, who's to say also that some of the video games and movies didn't take their information for the movie from the book or from those particular species. So again, I'm a skeptic to an extent with a lot of stuff, but this particular book, no. I believe there's mostly 100% validity to this book. So this is going to be a packed show. I have 60, 70 pages of notes that I'm going to be reading off to you, and we'll be discussing each species as we go. Now, with all these different races we're talking, there's 16 different subspecies of the gray alone. That's going to be a topic all by itself. And for those that missed the show, we're doing alien races tonight. We're also going to be doing fairies in January. Then we're going to do a comparison between the fairy races and the alien races. And you'll see a lot of similarity in that indeed some of the races that they called fairies could indeed be alien and vice versa. So on that, we're going to start with the Agarians. And it gets frustrating because I researched about 5 different YouTube channels that came straight off this. Actually, Dante made the YouTube videos, and so all the races were, on the YouTube video. But when you go to all these websites that talk about alien races, they take the information straight verbatim from the Alien Race book, not giving credit to anything coming from that book, but it's obvious they took it from the book because it's almost verbatim. So it's frustrating trying to find out new information on new races outside the book source. But, all these so-called experts in the alien and UFO field, they're going to take their information right from the book, not give it credit, but act like, that's not professionalism right there. So, Agarians. This is a race of the Nordic humans that reside in caverns below the Gobi Desert and surrounding areas from thousands of years ago. They have established a thriving kingdom. There is vast cavern systems below Tibet, which allegedly link the Agari systems of Central Asia to the Snake World, which is a multi-system cavern under the southwest slopes of the Himalayas. Now, you know what? Not sure how much research you guys have done, but if you look at UFO sightings and even alien abduction and alien research, there's a lot of activity in the Himalayas by themselves. Look up the Himalayas and do a Google search for UFO Himalaya, and a lot of stuff comes up. But I've even talked to guys from India that, yeah, indeed, Himalaya is a hotbed. There's supposed to be a base up in the Himalayas, as a matter of fact. But in the Himalayas, and we'll get to these guys, but there's also another race up there called the Nagas, which dwell according to Hindu legend. So if you look at the Hindu sacred text, they actually talk about some of these races as well. Here, a serpent cult of humans and reptilians dwells, in which they have been in contact with the Nazi Thule Society during World War II. These reptilians are run out by some warrior monks, although they have made a comeback in recent years. You got anything to add, Markham?
No, on that.
You're just getting my notes, so I know you haven't even heard of the Agarians yet.
Yeah, I'm reading along as you go. Can you remember the name of that? It's a Vedic text where they talk about the Brahmanas and all the different. Is that the same one where they talk about the aliens as well?
Look up the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata has a whole lot of Vedas that they talk about aliens, just like in the Bible. The Bible talks about Ezekiel wheel, and there's a lot of references And we're going to get to that because there's actually a doomsday prophet that is predicting that Jesus is going to lead aliens down here in September of 2017 to take out Putin. And I'm like, really? Really? Jesus is going to bring aliens down here and kill Putin. I don't see that one. And we'll get to 2017 because 2017 is actually listed in the Alien Race book. And, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
So we're going to get to Agarda. Agarda is supposed to be the race associated with gypsies. I found this interesting too because I like gypsies. And it makes sense in that, gypsies are very much, like it describes in the research I've done, gypsies are travelers. They are never happy in one spot. And if they were of alien descent, then it would make sense that, this is not home. So they're going to be restless. They're going to travel. But gypsies come from the Agarda race. Supposed to be the race associated with gypsies, explains why gypsies are so restless as to move all the time. They aren't comfortable on Earth's surface. Buddhist tradition states that Agarda was first colonized many thousands of years ago when a holy man led a tribe which disappeared underground. Now, the gypsies are supposed to have come from Agarda. Allegedly, Noah saved a worthy group prior to the flood that submerged Atlantis. It is believed he brought this group to the high plateau of Brazil, where they settled in subterranean cities connected to the surface by tunnels. They went underground to get away from radioactive fallout produced by the nuclear war the Atlanteans fought, which brought on the flood to their continent. So that's the Agarda. And I kind of thought that was cool. A lot of these races I actually think are cool. Their history is cool. And later on you're going to hear about another race where there was a civil war on their planet, and some of them escaped in makeshift spaceships. They went to another planet that they'd already colonized, and everybody else on the planet was destroyed. Now, there were Greys that had infiltrated that planet, and the surviving, if you want to call them surviving, planetary people were too weak to fight off the Greys. Well, the Greys genetically altered them and turned them into Greys. And that's where a lot of the Greys, that's why there's so many of the Greys. There's 16 subspecies of Grey. Now we're going to talk Alpha Draconians, and that's a topic in itself because there's 5 different sub-races, or not sub-races, what do they call them? Castes of the Alpha Draconians. They're a reptilian species which has established colonies in the Alpha Draconis star system. They supposedly originated here on Earth and plan on retaking the Earth. They started out attempting takeover by covert ops, but are now just waiting for an opportunity to invade and are suppressing technology from humans. They fear human planetary colonization as we are a warrior species, and would be a threat to their imperialistic agenda. And we'll get more on that later on. But yeah, it's the reptilians I encountered twice. They aren't a fun species. I despise them just like they despise me, and it's all fine and good. It's a hate relationship here. But now, I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but basically, the Andromeda, the Anunnaki seeded the planet along with 22 other races. They didn't stay here. They placed managers here to observe. And basically they seeded the planet, and evolution took its course and made us what we are today. This is all alleged. And like I tell you on every show, don't take our word for it. Go out and do your own research. You'll find the same sources we came up with. And as I said before as well, if you want the Alien Race book, let me know what your email is, and I'll send it to you. Because it's free anyway. Nobody bought it. Nobody paid for it. It was translated by Dante, and he offered it for free. So it's not like you're violating any copyright or anything else. It's a free book, and I can send it to you through email. Not a problem, along with my show notes. when we get done with the show. But the Altarians. The Altarians, and a lot of these races we're talking about have reptilian ties, or are hated by the reptilian. The reptilians have their hands everywhere. So the reptilian inhabitants of the Altair system and constellation Aquila, working with a smaller Nordic human element and Grey and Terran presence. Headquarters known as the Corporate. Maintain ties with the Ashtar and Draconian collectives. And then we go to the amoeba-like creatures. Now, at one point in time, I actually had a star chart. It wasn't even a star chart. It was in the papers that got stolen from me years ago when I was in Germany. But it was a channeled, and yeah, I don't like channels, but it was a channeled star chart, and I didn't know if it was a star chart or if it was a DNA chart, to be honest with you. And it actually, this race claimed it was a plant that floated in the atmosphere. So I found this particular race curious. They are amoeba-like creatures, and you'll see them in YouTube on occasion. These people will take videos of what appears to be amoebas that are actually floating, and they show intelligence. But these amoeba-like creatures are seen over polar regions of the Earth. No name for them has been found. They have appeared the last 10 or so years, something NASA was working on. Every time they're detected, strange illnesses break out. Unknown how they stay alive in outer space. And as I say in my own notes, reminds me of the species I had the drawing of back in the 90s. Who's to say it's not something that came from Mars? Because we have amoebas that they've supposedly found on Mars. No telling. So we go to the amphibians. These are similar to saurians or reptiloids. They are semi-aquatic, may have been on land at one point, but over centuries reverted to water and encountered near swampy regions. Known to attack humans without being provoked. Now, let's talk about the amphibians for a second, because their description of the amphibians sounds like the swamp creature. And we talked about this on Spaced Out Radio at one point. But who's to say that the swamp creature that cryptozoologists are finding in the South isn't actually this alien species? Because you got the swamp, man. You got a lot of what they're calling cryptids are seen in swampy regions. And they're very similar in action and appearance. And if the paranormal fields were to ever get it together and work together, you might find, a whole lot of similarity between cryptozoology, ufology, and paranormal fields. And a lot more will be accomplished. Now we got Anakim. Anakim are referred to as Els, or elders. They are also known as the giants, known in ancient Hebrew and was seen as once part of the human race but broke off. They range from 9 to 12 foot tall. They are known to mingle with humans. They have been encountered in cavern systems under the western part of North America, Alaska, and as far south as Mexico and Texas. They are believed to have interstellar travel. In my own notes, I believe this is referred to as the Elohim in the Bible and other sacred texts. Also, you look at the works of Zechariah Sitchin, Jacques Vallée, and Eric von Daniken, which I've got all their books. Maybe we'll have to break out the books and do a show just on the ancient alien theories, which are based on Sitchin, von Daniken, and Vallée. And that's actually where a lot of the ancient alien TV show gets their work from. Now we're talking Andromedans. Very cool race. I kind of like the Andromedans. The Andromedan Council has ordered all alien species off our planet, off the moon, and out of our space. Interesting, since there are over 1,833 reptilians living in our planet, and over 18,000 Greys living underground and on the moon. The Andromedan Council would like to see how humans will live together when not manipulated by ETs, as we have been for the last 5,723 years. Now, the Andromedans originate from the Lyrans, or the Lyrans. They originate from the star system Zenitae in the Andromedan constellation. They have no military, as they are scientists, but do have a defensive force. They send their kids to school for 150 to 200 years, where they learn all the arts and sciences. They are literally masters of everything, and then they can choose what they want to do, profession-wise. If they want to change their mind, they can, because, hey, they're the masters of everything, you know. They are highly instrumental in the Andromedan Council, which consists of 140 star systems who deliberate here on Earth. They came here in 2013, the last 10 days of August, as a matter of fact. That's another thing you might want to do, Markham. Look up the last 10 days of August in 2013 and see if there were any significant changes in the environment or UFO sightings, as a matter of fact. And that'll put credence to the fact that they came here in 2013 for their Andromedan Council. It's not a political body. What they have been recently discussing is the tyranny in our future. 357 years from now, because that affects everybody. Apparently what they have done through time travel is that they've been able to figure out where the significant shift in energy occurred that caused the tyranny 357 years in our future. They have traced it back to our solar system, and they have been able to further trace it to Earth. Earth, Moon, and Mars. Those three places. The very first meeting the Andromedan Council had was to decide whether or not to directly intervene with what was going on here. According to Moroni, who is one of my sources, there were only 78 systems that originally met the first time. Now, out of those 78, just short of half decided that they wanted anything to do with us at all, regardless of what the problem. I think it's really important that you know why they wanted nothing to do with us. We're talking about star systems that are hundreds of millions of light years away from us, even some who have never met us. They just knew the vibration of the planet reflected on it, and the reasons why they wanted nothing to do with us is, from their perspective, Earth humans don't respect themselves, each other, or the planet. What possibly could be the value of humans? Good point, you know. Look at the elite. Look at the corporations. Look at our government. Look at the governments on this planet. And why would you want anything to do with this race? Seriously. So fortunately, the majority of the council gave the opinion that because Earth has been manipulated for over 5,000 years, that we deserve an opportunity to prove ourselves. The Andromedans are the race that's the most responsible for the creation of crop circles. Crop circles are intended both to inspire humans with the possibility of extraterrestrial communication and to warn negative extraterrestrials of the consequences of their actions to control and manipulate humanity. The Andromedans' chief activity appears to be facilitating decisions of the galactic community in dealing with difficult problems such as the current Earth situation, innovative strategy for resolving conflict, the education of youth, and inspiring humanity with the possibility of extraterrestrial contact. Their global solution they promote include assisting the growth of psychic, crystal, and rainbow children, peace education, exposing elite manipulation, promoting improved global governance, and diplomacy and conflict resolution. Also seems to be Andromedan rebel group work with Assyrians. You're going to have rebels everywhere, so it doesn't surprise me. Alex Collier, another, 120 years of school seems excessive. I'm sitting here going 2 years of college. Oh my God, yeah, and they're going to school for 120 years. Good point, Robert. But yeah, so Alex Collier did a lot of extensive research on certain races. He hasn't covered near all of them. And he came up with there's a rebel group of the Andromedans that are working with the Syrians. Not to be mistaken for the Middle Eastern Syrians, but the ones from the constellation of Syria. Probably the ones Alex Collier described and worked with. The normal Andromedans come from the Orion Empire, and they know that the universe is feminine. Divine feminine? Possibly. However, according to the rebel group that spoke with Collier, they say God is masculine. Well, if they can't understand the feminine aspect, then they're not the positive race. So you got anything to add, Malcolm?
No, that Andromeda thing's pretty intense.
Yeah.
So a lot of detail for that.
Wait till we get to Anunnaki, which is next. They're also known as the Anunnakine. They come from the planet Nibiru. Now, if you go back and you listen to our archives, you'll look for the archive of the contactees. One of our contactees actually started a website about Nibiru. But honestly, Nibiru is supposed to be coming around. I haven't researched when it's supposed to be here next, but I believe it's pretty soon. And it might actually be what's coming up in 2017, according to the Extraterrestrial Race book. But there's other stuff coming as well. We'll get to that. It's actually got its own special section here coming up. But so the Anunnaki, they came from Nibiru. Same solar system as ours, but it's on the outer bands of our solar system. Comes around every 3,500 years. We'll get to it. Comes closer, comes closer to our sun every 4,000 years. Not every 3,500 is commonly misconcepted. They resemble humans, but they're taller. They're 8 foot and more muscular. Now, when they first visited Earth, there's already other races here. Some malevolent, which the Anakim defeated and became the most powerful race here. Now, picture yourself as a primitive human, and here comes a spaceship. You're going to see them as gods. So here comes this spacecraft, which you've never even seen an airplane, let alone, a bright light in the sky coming down to our planet. They became the most powerful race. They genetically modified humans at the time we were primates as a means of slaves for their disposal. Now, at the time, Samael and Lilith were the Anakim king and queen. They were not aware of the reptilians on Earth. They only cooperated with one other race, and that was the Zeta Reticuli. Not the Greys, but another race from Zeta Reticuli. They left the Earth but created the Zeta subspecies, which became the Egyptian pharaohs, who were later infiltrated by the reptilians. The reptilians were already here, but they weren't. They were cloaked, much like they are today. So the Zeta are pharaohs that were created by this Anunnaki, and they were removed from power by the reptilians, which ended their reign. They gave birth to the legends of giants. They were returned. The date is still a mystery. Also starts with Nimrod, who wanted humans to worship Anu. Nimrod started the Tower of Babel. There are books written about the species, so we won't hit on them too hard. Again, Zechariah Sitchin, von Daniken, and Jacques Vallée. But a lot of this starts in Iraq and the Middle East, specifically Mesopotamia. They're known to fly triangular or pyramid-shaped crafts. That's what the Anunnaki fly. They started human civilization in the Middle East, ancient Sumeria. They were formed when there was an issue between Sirius B and Orion. So in order to bring peace, a female from Orion and a male from Sirius B were joined in marriage. They were both of royal lineage. The offspring from them formed a tribe which is known as Nibiru, which in Orion tongue literally means divided amongst two. They have flourished for hundreds of thousands of years, and they are the ones who seeded our planet. They leave primitive species on the surface of a planet to flourish, and leave more advanced races, such as, unbeknownst to them, the reptilians, were left here to act as our managers. They didn't know the reptilians had their own agenda. The Anunnaki then came back periodically to check on their project, which was us. According to Sergeant Dean, I have a lot of references here, and I will be leaving the links so you can do your own research as well in the chat room. So, if you're listening and you haven't found the chat room, if you go to the bottom bar, you'll see a bubble-looking window. You click on that, you're going to have to sign into Spreaker, and you'll come into our chat room. I'm assuming we're still on. Yeah, I think we're still on. Our internet is good, so we're actually still only doing one show versus about 5. So everyone's still in the same chat room. That's cool. I think we're going to get to that, Steve. There is supposed to be an Earth-like planet that's close to us. And I think that is actually mentioned in my notes here. So Sergeant Dean was Air Force and was in a lot of the crash retrieval projects throughout the 70s and 80s. I believe I got that right, because I have 3 different sources: Collier, Sergeant Dean, and there's a Command Sergeant Major that was also involved with a lot of the information that comes out about alien races. So according to Sergeant Dean, they play a major role in human affairs. That's the Anunnaki. And it'll be more significant as Nibiru comes back around closer to Earth. It seems to concern the national security agencies as to how this will impact global humanity and the military-industrial extraterrestrial complex. They also appear to be in competition with the Draconians for control of Earth. The main global problems they contribute include elite domination, religious fundamentalism, a patriarchal global culture, and a culture of violence. What I do find here find interesting is so the Andromedans and the Reptilians are in conflict, obviously, because the Andromedans they put, or not the Andromedans, the Anunnaki. I'm getting confused here. That's easy to do. The Anunnaki put the Reptilians here as our managers, essentially. And, according to the Reptilians, no, Robert, yeah, it gets real confusing doing this research because there's a lot of conflict with some of this. And I usually go to the Alien Races book for confirmation because a lot of that information hasn't been confirmed based on the research I've done in the last 20 years. But so the Anunnaki seeded the planet along with 22 other races that you're going to hear about later on. And they seeded the planet. They created evolution, essentially. And then they put the Reptilians, unbeknownst to them that is their enemy, as our managers. Now, according to the Reptilians, they've been on this planet for billions of years. And so to them, we are, the race that's violating them. So, they hate us to begin with. And so now you got the Anunnaki, the Andromedans, and all these races that are at war with reptilians who are also in conjunction with the Greys. Now, there's 16 different subspecies of the Grey that you're going to find out about. And there is one species of Grey that is good. That has nothing to do with the other ones. But basically, the reptilians are the masters. The Greys work for them. And so, yeah, hope you have a notebook. If you want my show notes after the show, that I have no problem sending them to you, and it's all documented right there, based on all the different sources that I've looked at. And, you've got all these races that are in the book, and then you've got notes that are in the back of the book that actually I thought the notes were interesting in and of themselves, didn't you, Marco? You still with me, Marco?
Yeah, right here.
I found the notes on the back of handwritten in the back of the book of the alien races interesting in that they actually talk about the races that were involved with Montauk, and they talk about the races that were involved with the Philadelphia experiment. Yeah, there is one species, Andy, that of Grey that is actually a positive race. So we're gonna leave the Anunnaki for now. They come back later on, but the Antarctican, it's not so much a race as it is a base. So in the Antarctic, there's a secret base of operations where humans and reptilians are working. They are the Aryan Nazi scientists. We're set to develop flying saucers here, as well and these flying saucers had swastikas on them. They're piloted by blonde, blue-eyed Aryans. Seems to be a blonde, blue-eyed connection between the Antarcticans, the Telosians, and the Pleiadians. A new base called New Berlin is said to be under the mountains of Neuschwabenland in Antarctica. Very barbaric and ruthless operations causing terror in other worlds. This is the race also that Betty and Barney Hill were abducted by the Zeta Reticuli Greys in 1961. Barney, under hypnosis, recounted seeing an evil-eyed Nazi working with the Greys. So there you have, a valid source. The original contract with the Greys was established by the Bavarian Thulean Illuminati societies in and around 1933. Was brought to America by the CIA Operation Paperclip. All these scientists were brought in from the Nazis to America by the CIA through Operation Paperclip. Look up, if you want to do extra research, look up the column agents, the fifth column agents. 104 German rocket scientists were brought to America in 1946. Now, it's curious because if you look up the Eisenhower contract with the Greys, it's right around the same damn time. You compare all this to the cases in the North Pole and Alaska. There's a connection between the activities at both poles. So that's going to come into play. We are going to do a show on the Hollow Earth theories. Most of the Hollow Earth theories you'll find come from Native American lore and involve the mountains in California in Death Valley. But if you look at the Hollow Earth theories in general, they also involve the North and South poles. And it brings into a lot of what Admiral Byrd talks about in his books about finding alien races in the North Pole, I think it was.
Yeah, he supposedly flew over an opening and could see stuff down in there.
Yeah.
I don't remember all the details. I read that years ago.
I think we're going to incorporate Admiral Byrd's works in with our Hollow Earth theory show.
Yeah, we need to.
Along with okay, so Andy's got, hey Joe, I'm glad you made it. Outstanding. So Andy's got a question. Do we think the ETs have stopped USA and Russia from nuking the world? You know what? It's always a possibility. But Markham and I were talking about this before the show. What irritates me, I think more than anything, if we have all these good species or good alien races out there, and you've got 22 races that's supposed to have seeded our planet, and so they consider themselves our parents essentially. Now, if I parented this planet, and my kids are destroying the environment, are racially dividing, are causing mass hatred, mass fear. You've got these elite assholes that are controlling everybody, and you got these dominating negative races that are trying to take over the planet. Wouldn't you be a little more involved with trying to help? And I would think they would, but their attitude is, it's your problem, you fix it. But when it comes down to it, if we destroy this planet, it's actually going to kind of cause an oceanic wave or a rift of sorts to other planets and affect everybody, which is kind of, every time you've seen in history, if you look at the ufology of it, every time there was a nuclear blast, there was an intensive UFO and alien interest. Because of the fact that, now we've got radiation coming into the environment, which is actually going to possibly go into space and, cause damage to other planets. I mean, look at Fukushima. It's in Japan, but we got radiation that's supposed to be coming all the way over here as far as Colorado. So, yeah, we're playing with energies, and look at CERT. I think it's CERT. Is it CERT that's smashing atoms together? We're playing with tools and energies that we shouldn't be playing with, probably. Because you look at smashing atoms together, and what's it doing to our planet? And yeah, just things that if we have good races out there, why aren't they a lot more involved? Now there's not much. I couldn't find a whole lot on the Antares. They are from Sirius A. They look human. They are an alien group, or they are the ones that were part of the Montauk Project, but only as observers. So, Markham, I think we might want to look at the Montauk Project and see what it all entailed, along with some of the other dark projects that we haven't really hit on yet.
Yeah.
Now, here's a race I like, and that's kind of odd coming from me. I'd like to go to Mount Shasta one day and stay there for a time, just to find out what I can find out. Now, the Arcturians, the most advanced species in our galaxy. Edgar Casey mentions them in his books. I've got the link, but I actually went to his website and pulled out the information from his website about the Arcturians. According to Casey, Arcturus is one of the most advanced civilizations in this galaxy. It is a fifth dimension prototype of Earth's future. So that's probably what you were talking about with the Earth-like planet, is Arcturus. It's a fifth dimension prototype of Earth, or Earth's future. It's also an energy gateway through which humans pass through during death and rebirth. And I found that really intriguing. So according to their theory here, when you die, you actually go through a gateway to Arcturus, and you can come back and forth. So the Book of Knowledge, the Keys of Enoch, describe it as the midway programming center used by the physical brotherhood in this universe to govern the many rounds of experiments with physicals, quote unquote, at this end of the galaxy. And I know it sounds confusing. If you read it about 10 times, you might grasp a little bit more. Arcturus itself is the brightest star in the Bootes constellation, which is approximately 36 light years from Earth. Now, I'm thinking, so if you wanted to do a paranormal degree, I think I would encourage people. It does, Robert, it does. And I agree, Joe. Now, how far from Shasta are you, actually? You're about the middle of California, I believe, right? And, yeah, now, I've heard a lot of stories about Weed, California. And it's right around, I've been through Weed, just briefly. I've never stuck around. I think we stayed there for breakfast or something on our way back. But in Weed, California, there's supposed to be cafeterias, or, cafes, coffee shops, whatever, where strange-looking people come and go. And Weed is supposed to be the central point where a lot of these people... Weed burned up. Literally? We went through there, what was it, dear? When did we go through Weed? When did we go to Alabama last? I guess about 3 years ago we went through Weed. And it looked fine then. Hey, Everett. Good to see you made it. So the Arcturians are supposed to be inside Mount Shasta. And we'll get to that here in a second. And I would have no doubt Bigfoot would be guarding it. No doubt at all. So the Arcturians work in close connection with the Ascended Masters, whom they call the Brotherhood of All. They also work closely with the Galactic Command. Now, I didn't do a whole lot of research on the Galactic Command because, well, you've got the Ashtar Command, the Galactic Command, this command, that command, and I don't know. I have a hard time with channeled information. And so Galactic Command, they've actually got the website out and whatnot. They also travel the universe in their starships, which are some of the most advanced. One of their ships, called the Athena, after the Greek goddess, is circling the Earth, protecting the humans from the negative entities. Okay. Arcturian society is governed by the elders, who are revered for their wisdom, knowledge, and extremely high vibrational frequency. The higher the vibrational frequency, the closer you are to spirit or God. The Arcturians are short. They're about 3 to 4 foot and slender. They all look very much alike, which takes away the comparedness of humans in appearance. Because, oh, look, she's gorgeous. I want to look like her. Well, that takes that away, because they all look the same. That's the problem on Earth. That's how they see it. They are loving and non-judgmental beings. Their skin is a greenish color, and they have large almond-shaped eyes. They have only 3 fingers. They are totally telepathic and can move things with their minds. Telekinetic. Their source of nutrition is an effervescent liquid, which is highly vitalizing. Their eyes are dark, brown, or black, and they see more with their mind than with their physical eyes. They also have the ability to sense with the backs of their heads. The average lifespan of the Arcturians is 350 to 400 years, and they can transcend time and space. There's no sickness. It was eliminated from Arcturus centuries ago. They have a life contract, so they die when their contract is up. There is no extreme temperature on Arcturus. Professions are determined by a person's vibrational frequency, or aura color. For example, only those with a violet aura work with the children, as only the wisest can work with the young. Only those with a high vibration are allowed to give birth to an Arcturian child. They are chosen by the elders. And I found this all pretty fascinating. Yeah, Weed is the last town before the Oregon border. Agreed. Real small town, right up against Mount Shasta. I thought that was a pretty cool little town. And again, the Arcturians. There was so much detail about them. I thought, right down to only those with the high vibration are allowed to give birth. Now, they don't raise the child. They just give birth to the child. That's their profession. They have a reproductive profession. So they're chosen by the elders who can give birth. Reproduction is an honor in Arcturus. The reproductive process is a mind link between male and female, and an electron is passed between the two to create a replica. The new life form is then taken to a special room that has a high vibration until the being is ready for its family. Then it's basically adopted out. So the Arcturian starships are propelled by crystals that come from a planet in the Milky Way that has not been discovered by earthly scientists. These crystals conduct light from the sun. Arcturians are able to travel through time as well. They also have shuttlecraft which are global in shape and are used for activating energy points and ley lines on the Earth, which have been lying dormant for centuries. So, if you look at ley line charts, for example, they shift. So it makes you wonder if the Arcturians are responsible for the ley line shifts. As a scientist, what do you think about all this, Markham?
Well, I've never really been on board with crop circles. I've sort of, I don't know, I can willingly suspend disbelief on a lot of things, but crop circles it's too easy to fake them. And why not just, if you're going to bother writing in a field, why not just write in plain English?
Okay, I can get on board with that. But I can't remember the year, but there's a couple of English guys that were caught, or they came forward and said, "Oh, look, we made crop circles. We took a board, and it was midnight, so we went out in this field and we crushed all these corn with this board." If that's the case, how do you explain the fact that there were multiple crop circles, hundreds, if not, thousands of miles apart? And here's the difference, because you can see the difference between a fake crop circle and a real one. Real one will have a radioactive trace. There's generally also a cellular structure change within the stalks of whatever crop has been formed. Also, there have been cases where witnesses saw an orb that came down, and actually there's a video out there where they videoed an orb that came out of nowhere, and actually after the orb disappeared, there was a circle created. If you want more information on crop circles, look up Linda Moulton Howe's books, because she did extensive research on the cattle mutilation, which we're going to get into a little bit on some of these races tonight, as well as she's done a lot of work on the crop circle. In fact, it's crop circles that got her into the paranormal field back in the 70s. So I can get on board with some of the crop circles. I agree, not all of them, not by any means, because they can be faked too easy. But also, if you look at the real crop circles, the actual stalks of the crop are intertwined, which can't be done by a man. They can't be done by humans.
I would actually like to go see one. Take some readings, go to what is called a legitimate crop circle and actually do some research.
Well, yeah, and as a scientist, you'd have to. That'd be hell yeah. Now, you don't find them in America. You don't find them in the United States too often. In Canada, I know there's been a few. I can't remember when the last one was. I'd have to get a hold of Linda Moulton Howe and see. Pick up her books. I've got Alien Harvest, which is an excellent one, and there's a 2-part series. Lose Your Illusion, Mental Illusion, something like that. That's phenomenal. It goes into a lot of the weird of the weird, basically. So finishing up on our Kirans here. So they're crystals that they come from a planet that we haven't found yet, and that's what actually fuels their spaceships. They can travel through time as well. They also have shuttlecraft, which are global in shape and are used for activating energy points and ley lines on Earth. Now, I'd like to look at that. I'd like to do a focus show on ley lines, and then compare the focus of ley lines with missing people. That's an area I'd like to look at. These are ley lines that have been lying dormant for centuries, and they just mysteriously activate. They've also been working with Earth since life first started here. They're one of the 22 races. They have many bases on Earth inside mountains. I know Shasta is one of them, and 3 bases on the Moon. They can manifest physically, but they also exist in an etheric state. So if they're I can't talk. If they are in an etheric state, that tells me they can go through the astral. Because I know our astral team does encounter alien species on occasion. Not pleasant by any means. We'll have to do a show with them one night, just talk about aliens. They never invade a person's free choice, as the Greys are doing. Many souls are brought to the starships during dream state, where they are worked on and helped. But on that note, they never invade the person's free choice. They despise the Greys. They are here to assist humans enter the 4th and 5th dimensions of reality, and in raising their vibrational frequency. They are the guardians of higher consciousness in the universe. They are based in every country on the planet and have bases all over the universe. They are here to educate humanity, but have a difficult time with our government and military, who are primarily interested in military technology, not enlightenment. And that's been documented by Dr. Stone of California. So that's the Arcturians. Any questions about the Arcturians before we move on? Yeah. Okay, since we got the pagans in the group, hey, we're doing a show on fairy races in January. And we're going to go through all the fairy races that I'm researching. And we're going to compare them to tonight's show of the alien races. And basically see how many similarities there are between aliens and fairies. Then we're going to take those two shows, and we're going to compare the paranormal side between spirit activity, fairy activity, and alien abduction, and see what the similarities and what the differences are. Because really, you don't need the similarities as much as you do the differences. Because if I'm looking at a paranormal case, I want to know what to look for with fairy activity versus a spirit. And that way you can identify, well, is it a spirit haunting this house, or is it merely a fairy visiting? So that's what we're going to... I started my research. I'm already on page 80 of my notes for the fairy research versus 70 pages on the aliens. I stopped doing alien research because I was encountering the same information that was coming out of the Alien Race book. And as I said in the beginning of the show, if you want to copy the Alien Race book, it is a free download. I'll email it to you. I just need your email address. Send it to me in Facebook. Well, now we're going to talk about the Atlantans. The Atlantans look human. They're known to be benevolent compared to other groups. They inhabit caverns beneath southern Brazil. So these guys are found in Brazil and surrounding areas. They are considered part of the Atlanteans, as the cavern system they are in was said to be a part of the antediluvian Atlantean Empire. Say that 10 times. Anyway, but there's no direct genetic relation to the actual ancient Atlanteans. They just found that particular cavern system. So they're simply called this due to the fact that they rediscovered the caverns. In North America and other continents, normal and gnome-like humans have been encountered, some of which have advanced aerial craft. The Telosians also claim to have some claims with South America, especially the Mato Grosso region, where a sister city named Posid exists in the underground cavern. You're going to hear that again because it's going to come back up. There's a lot of when you're doing this kind of research, you find a lot of crossovers. So you're going to find the same information, different name, same race though. So, let me move my notes so I can see the chat well. Now we come to the AFIM, A-F-I-M. A lot of these races come from Lyra. This is no exception. The AFIM come from the constellation Lyra. They call themselves AFIM Spiansky. This is interesting because they were just called the AFIM. They were because of a war they had fought against a race called the Splanskys. The Splansky had 12 times more members and 35 times more ships and resources, and the AFIM still kicked their ass. So, on that note, the AFIM added the name Splansky to the end of their race as a warning to others. I thought that was kind of cool. So now they're called the AFIM Spiansky as a warning that, you know what, we might be a small race, but we can still kick your ass. So they have blue spotty skin, darker for males, lighter for females. They're a very small species. Their planet is called Crimea Alpetri, and they're highly technologically developed and can get here from their planet in 20 minutes. They don't need oxygen, as a large percentage of their planet is hydrogen. They have colonized 10 planets, non-violently. When close to humans, they can't be seen unless they want to be, but humans will feel anxiety when they are near. Their ships are small spheres, They come here to study human deviation, which is important to them in determining the future development of the human race. So they're not here to do any harm. They're actually here to study human deviation, which I found that kind of cool. You know, and they're a pretty badass race. Now, for those that are new to paganism that are in our chat room talking, go join the headquarters group, Forest Moon Grove. Send me a message on Facebook and I'll add you in. But I have a whole pagan library just in Forest Moon Grove alone. Kind of like Forest Moon Paranormal has a huge paranormal library, we have a pagan library that I haven't even added to finish that off yet in Forest Moon Grove. And it's nothing but pagan issues, whereas Forest Moon Paranormal is paranormal issues. Now moving along, we have Alcabata. Alcabata is an aggressive race that comes from Perseus. They have over 5,000 ships and have colonized over 100 planets of their own. They're considered a parasite race by other races. This is a race known for the abduction of humans, purpose unknown. Do not interact with other alien species. They were last seen on Earth September 1st of 2001 in Canada. Suspected to have been involved in several airplane crashes, example Korean Airlines Flight 007 over the USSR in 1983. The Russians took the blame for it. Okay, so my own notes on this one. Is Russia in cahoots with this species? You look at the Russian book, the Russian Roswell, and other Russian cases. Why would Russia take the blame for a downed aircraft when they know if they didn't do it, why are you going to take credit for it or take the blame for it in that case? When an alien species is the one who downed it. Just, things that make me look at things in a different light and go, huh. So now we have Algruluk, also known as the Builders. They come from constellation Sculptor, derived from an ancient race of reptilian that has since gone extinct. They specialize in building ships and other devices needed for deep space travel. They are also space travelers and always look for raw material. They can live up to 230 years. They were last seen here in Tokyo, Japan in 2005. Now, that's what I thought was cool about the Alien Race book, was it actually told you when they were last seen and where. Didn't you find that kind of fascinating, Markham?
Yeah, I did. I was interested to see that it was not only documented what they were, but last reported case and last reported sighting.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, where does that information come from? You can make up dates all day long in locations, but I did find it fascinating. All the similarities and all the, through my research I've done in the last 20 years, it brought a lot of credibility to that book.
Yeah, some of the dates jive with fairly well-publicized sightings.
Right.
Some, of course, were obscure, and you wonder what the source was, but there's enough that jive that gives it the ring of authenticity.
Exactly. Now we're off to Alamaluk Strat 163. These guys come from Jupiter, or one of its moons. Now, what I found interesting about some of these races that, they come from Jupiter, or they come from Venus, when we did our contactee show, again, we found a lot of the contactees that are, these are guys that they kind of looked out there a little bit back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And they're sitting there talking about, I've been meeting with these, the Jupiterians, or, they came up with the names for them. But again, you saw a lot of the Venusians. They came from Venus, they came from Jupiter. And now we're finding in the Alien Race book, this race came from Jupiter. This race came from Venus. And it, again, a lot of similarity. And it's like, huh. So maybe there really was something to this particular contactee that we kind of had skepticism about.
Like a Dempsey and some of them?
Yeah. And, you have to take a second look and compare the alien races that we're researching versus the contactees. And, you look at some of this, and if 1 + 1 = 2, then, So, Alamaluk Strat 163 comes from Jupiter or one of its moons, which I believe Phobos is a moon of Jupiter, or it might be Mars. I can't remember.
Mars.
Yeah. Okay.
Phobos and Deimos are the moons of Mars.
Okay. They lost a
Jupiter,
battle.
you've got Io, Callisto, Ganymede.
Right. Now, Alamaluk Strat 163, they lost a battle in ancient India against the Reptoids. They were forced to leave our planet. Now, coming from India, you could probably find some of this in, like the Mahabharata or some of the Vedas in India, if you look hard enough. That's what I like about India. A lot of their documentation, a lot of their, religious history talks about aliens and UFOs. So you can find a lot of this. And for everyone that's listening, Joe Monk has a deer walking by right now. He says it's an alien spy. So there's our critter report for S4. So these guys have been visiting for about 200 years. Huh?
I got a question.
Okay.
Does alien deer taste like venison or does it taste like chicken?
I don't know. What do you say, Joe? Does alien deer taste like venison or chicken? And did he use a pointy stick? Can't forget the pointy stick. And you still have the titanium one. He's going to take a second to answer here. But they've been visiting our planet for 200 years. Resumed their visit in 1948. It tastes like, okay. Joe says alien deer tastes like, So they resumed their visit in 1948. Extremely advanced race. Their ships are invisible and they wear suits that make them invisible. Last known visit was in Portugal, May of 2005. Good deal, Joe. Glad to hear. He says the titanium stick is hanging over his mantle. Make sure you keep the razor blade sharp. So, now we have Ainanna, Ainanna, known by humans as Martians. These guys came from Mars, and come from constellations Gemini. For thousands of years, they have had bases on Mars where they have been mining a gold-like substance. First recorded visit to Earth, and here's where this lends credence to me. Their first recorded visit to Earth was in Japan, 1235 BC. Last seen on Earth in Madagascar of 2003. Now, if you saw my UFO presentation at Paracon, I still have it if you want to look at it. There was a case in Japan in 1235 BC that is documented, where a very alien-looking woman, by alien-looking, she wasn't wearing the clothes of the time, and she had a technological box. All right, Markham. She had a technological box in front of her. And she seemed to have been using that as a translator. Now, this is documented, mind you, in Japan of 1235. And she said she came from another place. So here you go. You have this alien race in this 1947 book that talks about this race, and I believe it did have pictures. But there you have verification. To me, it's verified. And now we're going to Al Grualix. Come from the constellation Cetus. She had clothes, Joe. She was wearing clothes. They were just not clothes of the time. They were very colorful, I guess, but not the kind of clothes they wore in that culture at that time, in 1235 BC anyway. So Al Grualix comes to the constellation Cetus, near Deneb, Catos Shimali. Confused for reptilians, but they are nothing alike other than appearance. They stand around 6 foot and can live up to 350 years. They are one of 21 races that has more than 2 genders. They have 8 genders, and all 8 genders can reproduce when in contact with each other. Purpose to visit Earth is unknown. Their last sighting was in Lima, Peru of December of 2004. Now we have Akart. Comes from the constellation Sextans. Crashed one of their ships in Varginha, Brazil, 1996. This is another documented case. There is a case that has been documented in ufology that crashed in Varginha, Brazil, in 1996. 2 of the occupants are in U.S. government control. They have the fastest ships among all of the races. Last seen on Earth, February of 2002, again near Varginha, Brazil. Interesting to note that the Varginha case, Varginha, whatever the hell, it's in Brazil, was also documented in my UFO case files and shows corroborative evidence. The next race we have is Eric. And for those that can't understand my confusion, this particular city is spelled Vagihna. So yeah, you can understand my confusion. But anyway, Eric comes from the constellation Ophiuchus near Yed Prior. Considered a peaceful race. Purpose for their visit is unknown, as they never stick around nor interact with humans or other alien species. They use Earth as a stop-off point, and then they travel to their real destination. They basically come here, stock up on water or whatever it is they stock up on, and then go off to their original destination. They're mostly nocturnal. Their ships emit a bright orange light, and they are octagonal in shape. Last spotted in London, England, May of 2003. Now, for our Aussies out there, we are going to have a couple cases that we're seeing in Australia. Now, are any of you guys near Pine Gap? Because Pine Gap is the Area 51 of Australia. I know you know that. That's where all the UFO sightings are seen, is in Pine Gap area. They have a secret base there of government use. And you know, that's what my mate says, Joe. Everything in Australia eats humans. Completely agree. And it's midsummer. It's got to be, you know, it's not Christmas unless there's snow on the ground. And if you guys are near Pine Gap, send me some pictures. I want to see some pictures of Pine Gap. So Alabram live on a planet beyond the Andromeda Galaxy. They have a similar appearance to humans, but with larger diaphragms and lungs. Oxygen is weaker on their planet. Their birthing process is unlike ours in that they actually gestate in their stomachs for a shorter period of time than us, and then they regurgitate the fetus when it's time. You know, unless you have a very creative imagination, you can't come up with shit like this. Unless it's, you know, I don't know, it's documented. The baby is extremely small and reaches maturity. They're grown up in 7 years. They have a large brain and absorb information through osmosis and are very telepathic. They grow their food. They grow their foods on our planet in caverns and caves, because their sun on their planet is so hot it would burn their plants up. So, was this species or race involved with Philip Schneider's dad in the Philadelphia experiment? I'm curious. Got to do some more research on that one and do another Philadelphia experiment show. Because for some reason, either through the book or through the picture, I kind of put this species with the Philadelphia experiment. Now, next species, now we're finally on the bees, is Bavi. Looks like a typical blonde and belongs to the Lyran Caucasian group. They can walk among humans undetected. Phenotype A1, all live in the metropolia, and men and women are equal. There is no women's rights, men's rights. All men and women are equal. They lived for centuries, and their ages ended when they achieved their majority. Okay, so Pine Gap's the middle of Australia. No one lives there. All right. So that would be the perfect place for a base. I hear you. Is it I'm not sure, Robert. I believe it's in the Northern Territory, if I remember right. Hey, Apocalypse. Good to see you here. So the Bernarians. The Bernarians come from the Bernard star system. They're controlled also by the humans as well as the Orange. The Orange we will get to. The Saurians see to also have a collaboration with us, like in our own solar system. Really? So the USA owns Pine Gap in Australia? Okay. That makes a whole lot of sense, because that's where they moved Area 51 then, probably. Something to look into. Now we're off to the Bootians. The Bootians are also known as the Selamani Confederation, originated from the constellation Bootes. You're going to hear about them a lot more because there's a lot more alien races that are related to the Bootian area. They're approximately 30 to 40 light years from Earth. They're malevolent to humans and part of the Orion group, hostile towards humans and chameleon or reptilian-like, originated from the draconian reptilians. Allegedly intelligent and have small snouts with reptilian eyes. These are flesh eaters and see humans as a food source. They are known to implant, infiltrate, and control galactic civilizations and societies. They are here in deep underground bases working with Draconian and Greys to take over the Earth. They are also known to have exchanged technology with humans as well. Some sources say they are of reptilian descent and were part of the Dulce Wars. So, if you want to hear more about the Bootians, look them up. This is also the reptilian species I believe I encountered twice, once in Atlanta, once at Fort Lewis. They remain cloaked around humans. They smell like garbage and rotting flesh. I speak of this from personal experience. They give you a sense of dread and bad energy. They are highly advanced and psychic. Yeah, there's actually a reptilian species and a gray species that has vats of human and animal flesh. So we'll get to them. Yeah, sounds good, doesn't it? So now we're off to the burrows. These guys are a mutation of the saurians or the serpent race that can burrow through the earth. And I hope you guys have notebooks and are taking notes. If not, I can send you copies of our notes here, and you can do your own research. And maybe you'll come up with a source or a reference that I haven't had yet. I have a whole list of website links in the back of my notes where you can actually look up the sources I found my information from. Because I don't like taking people at their word. I like having references and sources as well. So these guys create artificial tunnels like moles. They can also cause cave-ins, trapping intruders. They may have a highly developed biosensing system. Not much known about them. I can see them actually being involved with the Greys, though. Because of the fact that the Greys and reptilians have a whole lot of bases on our planet underground. So now we go off to the blue people, also known as the Blues. These guys are kind of cool if I remember right. They're said to have translucent skin and almond-shaped eyes. They have a small small frame. I'm losing it here. Information about the Blues comes from Robert Morningsky, a Hopi Apache dancer. They bring a message of do your own thing or be who you are. Messages of peace. Contact with the Blues started in 1947-1948 when the Greys started contacting the U.S. government. The Blues came here to warn the government not to deal with the Greys. They told the Blues would work with the government if they would disarm and turn peaceful. Basically, they told the government, drop your nuclear weapons, stop being, militant, and we'll work with you. And of course, the government said, screw you, we want weapons. And so they worked with the Greys. The military said no, so they left, but a few stayed behind in northern Mexico and Arizona and made a treaty with the Hopi. The Hopi called them Star Warriors. We're going to do a native show. I think probably in February, because I think we're going to fill up January just alone with the fairy versus alien shows, because there's enough of them that we're going to fill up January, I believe. And then we're going to go to the Hollow Earth theory, which is going to encompass Native American lore. I am Robert. My words are getting twisted here. Anytime you start talking constellations and whatnot, some of these words are kind of tricky. But the Blues told the government, disarm and turn peaceful. The government said no. The Hopi called them Star Warriors. The Gray started monitoring the Blues. The Blues had to flee the reservation, and some of the elders went with them. There's a lot more to that story, but if we're just going to focus on alien races, then we'll cover that in another show. The Buttas.
Yeah, I'd like to unlock that a little bit.
Yeah, do a lot of research on the Hollow Earth theories, especially concentrating on the Death Valley, California mountains. And we might get Joe pulled into this one. Joe, being in California, he could probably tell us a lot more stories and legends about the mountains in California around Death Valley. So I'm not sure if it's Buttas or Butas. These are negative entities associated with nightmares, abductions, and taking of small children. They usually come around at night, and the Greys fall into this category, as well as reptilians. This is a category of species, basically. They're generally ugly in appearance. Recently, there was a visitation by Butas called Wakshashas. Yeah, say that one 10 times. Wakshashas, who are negative, aggressive beings. I would kind of put the Butas in with the paranormal. In that, I believe a lot of the negative entities that you call spirits or demons would fall into this Buta category. And then you have negative fairies, which would be in the Buta category. So something else to look at, because you can. What if everything's not just the same? Just a different energy. And then you have to look at the David Paulides missing persons. You've got how many thousands of people and kids that come up missing every year. And what if it's a whole bunch of different shit that is making people come up missing? Not just abduction, not just aliens, not just Bigfoot, not just, what if fairies are taking some? What if, aliens are taking some? Bigfoot might be taking a couple of them. They might be walking in a port. There's a whole bunch of different paranormal areas that could be, it's just one big paranormal area, field. Something we need to look at, Mark, and we're going to do I think a 2 different episode show on just the paranormal aspect of missing people.
Yeah, I think so.
Actually, Robert, I actually talked to Paulides, and no, we can't because we don't make enough money. That's pretty much what he told me. I tried to get him to Paracon, and he said no because we don't have enough people. So that's the story of Paulides. He won't be coming because we aren't big enough.
No.
And usually I wouldn't bring up names, but since you asked directly, then I will answer you directly. Next species is Caraveldi, known to be extremely dangerous to humans and other alien species. They come from the constellation Chameleon. They have been permanently involved in conflicts with a few other races for over 500 years. They are rarely seen on Earth. They live up to 150 years. They're up to 9 foot tall, and they have 4 arms. Their last sighting here was in New Orleans in 1976. Oh, okay. Pauline Hanson, Aussie politician. We can look into that, but I can't. You want to look into Pauline Hanson, Markham?
Sure.
See if you can find a contact information for her. And even if you might want to get her on Spaced Out Radio to talk about Pine Gap. Or we'll get her on S4. So now we're up to the Secians, Secians or Tausetians, which is a race of tan-skinned human appearing from South America or Mediterranean. They have slightly pointed ears. To me, that talks fairy. A lot of fairies have slightly pointed ears. We'll get to that in a different show. But high physical density and size. Nose is slightly broader, 5'5" tall, and often wears crew-style haircuts. In partnership with the Pleiadians, have federated alliance with the Vegans, the Umites, and others. They have been victimized by the Greys. They are very defensive against the reptilians and have been at war with the Lizzies. In 1920, a contactee was told the Norcans, a blonde race circling Tau Ceti, and migrated to Earth around 14,000 years ago. Tau Ceti is also where scientists have been receiving clear radio signals. So now we're up to the chameleons, the reptilians genetically bred to enable themselves to blend in with humans, or can molecularly shapeshift at will or create holograms. These are the ones that are the reptilian species that look human. Well, kind of, because they can't hide their eyes. These are the ones that come from joint operation facilities such as Dulce, New Mexico, Dugway Proving Grounds in Utah, Groom Lake, Nevada, Deep Springs, California, Joe, Deep Springs, California, and Fort Lewis, Washington. If you want more information, look up Reptilian Watch, which is http://bedopper.com. Terracotta idol was found in Pristina, Kosovo in the Neolithic period. They're involved in the infiltration agenda. Now, for your own information, I've done this. Google Madigan reptilians. Just put Madigan reptilians in the Google blog, and you'll find out some information about Old Madigan at Fort Lewis, where there's supposed to be an underground passageway that goes from Mount Rainier to the Old Madigan Hospital on the Army base. And there's a group, this also hit our contactee show, they're called the Romthans. Yeah, you caught that, Joe. Yeah, look up Deep Springs, California for us. So, the Romthans are in Yelm, Washington. And I'm not going to go into their history. Go listen to the contactee show, and you'll hear all about the Romthans. They were in our spotlight for that show. But they believe there's a reptilian race that lives inside Mount Rainier. Now, if you look at conspiracy theorists, they believe there's underground tunnels all over, the United States and the globe, actually. So there's supposed to be an underground tunnel for the reptilians to travel on that goes from Mount Rainier to underneath Old Madigan. Now, I've got pictures. I worked at Old Madigan for a minute. Okay, the aliens, real quick, anytime you guys post a question, I'll always jump to answer it if I have an answer for you. But the species there's multiple species that fly the triangular craft. Some of them are TR-38s, which are government craft. And actually, yeah, I saw the triangular craft going over Syria when I was in Iraq. That was a triangular craft as well. The Anunnaki are supposed to fly a triangular craft, and also a craft that it looks like a pyramid, which is flying. So that's one species I do know flies triangular, as well as the U.S. government. Other species, I'm really not sure about. I'm sure information will come out about them. Anyway, Google Madigan reptilians. I do have pictures of elevator shafts in Old Madigan. Now, this is a one-story hospital. It's just spread out very thin. And it has elevator shafts. So, why would they need them? Next species is the Chirons. Slightly taller than humanity. They have 4 legs, 2 arms, long narrow faces with downward muzzles. Their homeland is Chir, C-H-I-R, and a garden paradise, although they almost destroyed their world in a nuclear war. The whole planet slumped into a nuclear winter. A few of them had survived in underground bunkers. Now, Chupacabra. I ordinarily would never put Chupacabra in as an alien race. But in some of the sources I was looking at, they actually had Chupacabra. Because of the fact many of the killings are associated with strange creatures we have called the anomalous biological entity, or ABE. It is reportedly a cross between a creature known as a gray alien humanoid, mainly because of the shape of its head and eyes and what most witnesses describe as the body of a bipedal, erect dinosaur, but with no tail. Okay, Joe, you need to send me that either an email or a Facebook message, because I don't even get to check my Spreaker chat rooms. So if you guys have information for me to research, by all means, send it to me. But not on here, because I won't even get to it. Now, Chupacabra, its head is oval in shape and has an elongated jaw. 2 elongated red eyes have been reported, together with small holes in the nostril area, a small slit-like mouth with fang-type teeth protruding upward and downward from the jaw. Other witnesses have seen small pointed ears, but this feature has not been seen by other witnesses. So, it appears to have strong coarse hair all over its body, and while most observers claim the hair is black, it has the remarkable ability to change colors at will, almost like a chameleon. In the dark, it will change to black or a deep brown color. In a sunlit area surrounded by vegetation, it changes to green, green-gray, light brown, or beige. The creature has 2 small arms with a 3-fingered clawed hand and 2 strong hind legs. Again, with 3 claws. This appears to enable it to run quickly and leap over trees. Some witnesses allege over 20 feet in a single bound. According to many observations, the creature's legs look almost reptilian or goat-like. Now, Chupacabra, by Mexican definition, is translated to goat sucker. Because it's been known, if I recall right, because I did research on Chupacabra years ago when it first started coming out in Texas. It came out in Texas and Mexico, it pretty much stayed in that area, in that region, to my knowledge anyway. But there are actually human killings from Chupacabra, if I remember right. Did you ever do Chupacabra research, Markham?
Yeah, a lot of the originals were from Puerto Rico.
Yeah, okay.
And there was, one time that her chickens all got killed, a lot of pets and stuff like that. And it was a bipedal winged creature with spines along its back. So
Right.
I don't understand how we go from that to those mangy coyotes down in Texas being called chupacabras.
Yeah, it's a big stretch. But if it is indeed a gray and can manipulate itself at will, or a chameleon like a reptilian and can manipulate itself at will, I've never classified the Chupacabra as an alien until now. I just happened to find Chupacabra last night, actually, in one of our alien race sources. Now, is it someone stretching, making a big stretch to include it? Who knows? But, they also, you look at Mothman.
It sounds like reptilian races.
It does. It does.
Sounds like misidentification of one of them.
So, it's known
Even
as a
there's
chameleon.
that Cobra base in Puerto Rico, too, that U.S., there's some kind of U.S. base that's up to, does some kind of secretive crap. So it could have just been like one of the, one of the reptilians. I have a feeling it was either spying on that base or escaped off that base, and that's where the whole Chupacabra thing came from.
Right. It could be a government manipulated creature, for all we know. Created by a lab. We're going to hear about Mothman as an alien as well later on, which I find it interesting how a lot of the cryptids that you hear about in cryptozoology are being kind of blended into the alien field. But it makes sense.
Yeah.
It does. So, this thing, the chupacabra, can change colors from blue to green, red to purple, etc. A number of witnesses claim the creature flaps at incredible speed its tail and appendages, allowing it to actually fly. The tail apparently is used to guide its flight only. Controlled mainly by the wind, only occasionally seen to flap. First reported in the town of Orocovis. The ABEs have been sighted in the municipality of Canovanas and in many areas of Puerto Rico. Its habits are both diurnal and nocturnal. As a matter of fact, it has been seen in broad daylight by several witnesses. One such occasion was witnessed by Madeline Tolentino and her neighbors in the Campo Rico community, municipality of Canovanas. They all observed it walking down a street at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. As they approached it, the creature ran away at a fantastic speed and escaped. How far, Andy, can you get to Pine Gap? I mean, is it fenced off? Or how close can you get to it before some kind of security or, you get confronted? I'd be curious about that one. Now we're going to talk about the Deros, or Deros. These guys are curious too. The Deros are an underground species, which some see as human, others do not. Legends of the leprechaun and troll come from the species. Unlike the Teros, which you're going to hear about the Teros later, they're a complete opposite. The Teros they're demented, the Deros are demented and not to be trusted. They live in underground cities, tunnels, and under the sea. There's a group of cave dwellers called the Sumunian, or Abyss ones. There is a race that exists, and their chief's name is Yabahan. They are in conflict from another species that also believes they will one day take over the Earth. There's a lot of species that think they're going to take over this planet. Are they going to? Yeah, good luck. They hatch from eggs that are 4 to 6 foot in diameter. They grow to 7 foot and are extremely obese. They live in caves. They don't have much intelligence. And it kind of goes for anytime you have a cave-dwelling species that doesn't leave, I think it's because they don't have the sunlight to allow them to mature or grow properly. These guys, though, they have 2 stomachs. Their digestive system is the same as a cow, and they chew a cud. It goes through a sac, where it's regurgitated like a cow, and then goes to the true stomach. They have no fingernails, toenails, nipples, navel, or rectum. Now, it makes sense they wouldn't have a navel, because if they're born from eggs, they wouldn't have a navel. So that part actually makes sense. Their eyes are a silver gray, and they glow in the dark. They have blonde eyebrows and a pinkish color skin, much like a pig, having not been exposed to the outer sun. They have no hair because of a disease called trichotillomania, and are responsible for the diseases trichinosis and trichiniasis. They have no teeth. Their mouth appears to be full of a gummy, slimy substance. They are nocturnal and hear extremely well. They are not peaceful and they hate humans. I don't know if I can blame them. I hate humans too. Anyway, their noses are long, much like that of an elephant. They have a trunk. They say the Earth was theirs originally and will one day be again. You guys in Australia, if you can look up ufology in Australia, we'll do a show on it. We'll bring you on. And I like Trippin's question as far as the Aboriginals, because I believe there's a tie with aliens to the Aboriginals, to be honest with you as well. There'd be something to be looking at, especially with Aboriginal paintings like Trippin's bringing up. Okay, now we're going to talk about the Dracos, maybe mistakenly as Mothman. They are the leader elite of the reptilians. They have special wings, which are flaps of skin supported by long ribs. Now, Jeepers Creepers kind of reminds me of that. When I read this, I thought of Jeepers Creepers because the wings on that creature, had long rib-looking things, which can be folded back.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. And you look at, I've always said this, you look at a lot of the horror movies, you look at a lot of the alien movies, UFO movies, and you can actually see where they got their information from. Because I don't think it's the other way around. So these guys, the Dracos, are also known as the dragon race, not to be mistaken for dragons. Because for many pagans, we work with dragons as well, and they're not alien. They're actually part of their own realm. The dragons we work with come from the 9th dimension. They have a council in the 14th dimension as well. But anyway, that's for another show. So the symbology of the Dracos is a winged serpent. They come from Alpha Draconis. Draco is the name of an astronomical constellation. Thuban is the Alpha Star. The constellation is the home of the Draconian Empire. The Greys, some of the Greys are actually there as well. But they consider humans inferior and the Earth as their ancient outpost. Their planet is becoming unstable, and they will have to move eventually. So guess what? They're going to try to come. They're considered the most technologically advanced species, but they prefer to work in the shadows. And this brings me as much as we didn't like the Mars, the secret space program show. His description of the reptilians that they were fighting with, or he was talking about U.S. military fighting with the reptilians against another species, and they were in the shadows and they were using weapons. This description here, it kind of keyed me in on that. It's like, wow, they actually describe these Dracos here as working in the shadows and working primitively. So, something to think about. So, you got multiple Draco races, or castes. Not even races, they're all the same race. But the white-skinned Draco is the highest order in the caste. He's like the king, essentially. Some experiencers have seen the white-skinned beings interacting with the greenish-brown Dracos, reptoids, or various gray types. They can travel interdimensionally. Most other species can't. Some of the higher ranking can also become invisible. They've had a presence on thousands of planets and have colonized 500 planets by means of infiltrating the leadership. Makes you wonder what's happening here. They have 3 main bases on Earth, 1 near Bermuda Triangle, 1 somewhere off the coast of Denmark, and 1 off the coast of New Zealand. Hint, hint. Look up New Zealand, guys. That's your neck of the woods. So, more on the Dracos. As I said before, they originate from Alpha Draconis star system, which is 215 light years away. And it was formerly the Pole Star. So, according to Alex Collier again, they have 2 castes. The warrior caste, which stands 7 to 8 foot tall and are feared for their fighting tactics. The second caste is the royal caste known as Chikars, because of their alleged size, psychic ability, and alleged wings. Gotta catch my breath here. They range from 14 to 22 foot tall and can weigh up to 1,800 pounds. That's a big-ass being, you know that? They're extremely clairvoyant, clever, and can be sinister. They see themselves as the smartest in the galaxy. Yeah, it's common for a lizard, ain't it? and humans are inferior, and they
Yeah.
plan on harvesting all Earth's resources and exploiting what they're going to get for it. So, the hierarchy goes from the Draco reptilians, like we're talking about now, they're at the top. They're in charge of all of them. It goes down to the Earth-based reptilians, which are already here, who are in charge of the tall grays. We're getting to this. I'm just kind of showing you the hierarchy of them, because you got the tall grays and you got the short grays. Aren't they, Joe? Get that pointy stick out, man. We're gonna go lizard hunting. Seriously. And we'll use pointy sticks, because yeah, that's just what we do here on S4. So you go Draco reptilians at the top. If you used to make a chart, you put Draco reptilians. You draw a line. Then it comes down to the Earth-based reptilians. Then you draw a line, because they're in charge of the tall grays. These are your scientists and your commanders, essentially. And they're in charge of the short grays. That's your order of command right there. The Draconians appear to be very active in controlling human elites, institutions, and financial systems, promoting militarism, creating a climate of scarcity, struggle, and insecurity, harvesting humans, and manipulating greys and other reptilian races. Draconian activities contribute to global problems such as concentrated wealth, corrupt elites and institutions, ethnic and religious violence. Hey, there you go. What are we experiencing now? Ethnic and religious violence.
Yeah.
Human rights abuses, a culture of violence and terrorism, and the drug trade and organized crime. So now, we got the White Dracos. Their home planet is orbiting Thuban, the largest race of the Dracos. Known in Sumerian text as Kingu Babar. They are a creator god in their own right, and are the creators of the reptilian species, now spread out over Sector 9. Now don't ask me what Sector 9 is, I have no idea, I didn't explain. Look up Sector 9 and we'll find out. So, the Babar are loners and opponents of the Syrians. They're not human friendly either. They are known as aggressive. They won't hesitate to kill, but have no immediate plans to take over the universe as the Syrian alliance does. They are present in our solar system on occasion, and the Syrians leave them alone. Now, the Red Dracos are in charge of the Dracos, still residing on Draco. They have reddish skin, wings, horns, and tails. This is probably where the image of the devil came from. They are known as ferocious soldiers and often seen with Syrians on occupied planets. They have their own governors in Thuban, but the whole Draco system falls under the Syrian regime, and their governors answer to the Syrian government. And this is really confusing if you're just hearing this. I understand that. That's why I'm hoping you're taking notes. Or I can just send you my notes and you can do your own research and maybe come up with information that I haven't been able to find out yet. So then you come up to the Green Dracos. These are the worker class. They're obedient to both the Red Dracos and the Syrians. They are considered the lower caste. They are not trained warriors, but they are still territorial and will get hostile if provoked. So don't use the titanium pointy sticks on them yet, Joe, until you have a gun to back yourself up. Okay, now we're going to get to Dorsey. The Dorsey grow to a maximum height of 1.6 foot. They're short. And have visited Earth at least 250 times. They come from Cassiopeia, where they have 2 home planets. Their race is at least 4 billion years old, and they eat other aliens as well as humans. They have been in a constant state of war with another alien species for 2 billion years. Last sighting of them was on Earth November of 2001 in the Italian Alps. And as you can see, some of these species you don't hear a whole lot about. They probably keep themselves insignificant because we have enough problems with the other castes or the other species. Now we come to the Dries. Their height is around 8 foot tall, very complex skull, visited Earth at least 20 times, carry out human abductions for reproduction purposes. They have abducted at least 520 humans, male and female. That comes into play because there's one species that only abducts women, females. They come from the third star in the Cetus constellation. They have 2 home planets. They have colonized at least 40 planets with the help of slaves. 10 of the planets taken with the use of force. They work together with at least 3 other races. They mostly eat animal protein-derived products. They are not mentally or spiritually prepared to interact with other races. Their home planet is similar to Earth in chemical composition, and they are set to reveal themselves to humans in 2022. Okay, that date is going to come into play because I can't remember what race it was, but you're going to hear all about 2017 coming up here in a little bit. Now is the Dropus. They are a humanoid type, 3 to 4 foot tall. They crashed on the Sino-Tibetan border in 10,000 BC. The tribe of this culture still exists there today. It was high in the mountains of Vayankara Ula on the border of China and Tibet. This gets interesting. They crashed. They hid in the caves as the local Ham tribe was killing them. They're still there today. Their graves were found by archaeologists in 1938. Now, you know, we always talk in Spaced Out Radio, we always talk on other shows about there's no evidence. Well, we're not looking in the right areas. Because archaeology is coming up with it. Archaeologists in 1938 found this race buried in caves, and they were found with 716 grooved discs for their records. Picture, you know, our own turntable records, and these are grooved stone discs that they actually found. They actually made vibration. They also found cave drawings that dated back 12,000 years of stars and planets that weren't yet found about. The Dropus and the Hams were still found in the caves, strange in appearance, which were neither Chinese nor Tibetan. This has also been known as the Chinese Roswell, as this is one of the major cases in which a flying disc had crashed in China. Now, talk about this for a second, Markham. I know you've got my notes. I'm going to jump up and grab me a cup of coffee real quick. But what do you think about that? Have you done any research on that particular aspect of the fact that they found graves and they found turntable records that actually had writing in the grooves? I found that really intriguing.
Yeah, those groove discs.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that you can, if you try and look it up, you get it. You can go tripping down a rabbit hole. But anytime you start going to China, as far as records go, it gets kind of sketchy as to when you're trying to verify. Being such a closed culture, it's kind of hard to get in there. I would love to go to that area and check out those caves where these things are supposed to still be.
Yeah, that'd be a road trip to China, Tibet. That'd be one of those expeditions, not a road trip.
Yeah.
We're moving along to the dwarves. If we could find a Tibetan, I mean, I haven't looked, but I know in Forest Moon Paranormal we're international. Where I've got folks in South Africa that pop up and chat with me. I wonder if I've got anybody in Tibet or China in the group that if we could pull someone that's boots on ground and go in that area and see what they find.
I would say try and get somebody on your remote viewing staff to, pin down that geological or pin down that region and do a remote.
It's
See
just
what you
not
can
near as
find.
fun as physical, though. It really ain't.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, some things you can remote and take care of. Other things, nah, I'd rather have boots on ground that can actually take pictures and send them to me. You know, or even take
I,
soil samples inside the cave and send them to you for analysis.
that'd be cool. What group do you think the ones that live near you? What reptilian group are they?
I think that's the Buddhists, the boots race. I know they're. I believe they're green skinned. I haven't sensed anything about the red, not in this area. And I really doubt those castes are actually on Earth. They stay up in their own star system and just dictate what goes on from there. Now we're going to talk dwarves. We're not talking dwarves from the fairy realms. This is an alien race. But I am going to do a comparison of the alien dwarves versus the fairy dwarves at the similarities. These guys are humanoid. They live in cave systems in various parts of the world. You know, including Northern California, Southeast Arizona, and Southwest New Mexico. Also in connection with UFOs. The ones connected to UFOs may also have been the Saurian Greys. They average 3 to 4 feet, and some have been seen as short as 2 foot. They may have been a part of a genetic anomaly due to separation from the international gene pool, and they live in subterranean systems on a protective measure. Some allegedly also possess aerial disc technology and interplanetary travel capability. El Manuk comes from the constellation Grus near the star Alnair, one of the most peaceful races. They co-created the Alliance of the Five Races, Council of the Five. This is going to come up again. I'm going to do another study just on the Council of the Five because these guys are intriguing. Not much is known about them. This council is 5 races that protect humans against the less peaceful races. They coined the phrase 5 races that protect 5 universes, 2,500 species, 1 race. The council was to have met the last 10 days of August 2013, and that's what we need to look at. What kind of anomalies happened the last 10 days of August of 2013? Due to the fact that Earth has been visited by too many new species in the last 500 years. Their last sighting on Earth was near the Sea of Cortez, September of 2002. Now, the Council of Five is going to come up again here shortly. Next species is Elfaf. Come from the constellation Bootis, near Astellas Primus. Resemble the Greys, but not related. Has 4 different genders and are known to be benevolent. Purpose of their visit is unknown. Okay, I'm going to keep going, Markham, and just drop off when you have to. I'll keep on going over notes, though. We're going to do a 3-hour show tonight, just to get all these species out there. They seem to have a special interest on raw materials or minerals, as they are often sighted now near old mines. The last sighting was in San Isidro del El General, Costa Rica, in 2005. Next is Elena, also known as the Elves. Race that started the myth of elves, sighted often in the Germanic countries deep in the woods, not known to be dangerous to humans but pranksters. They lure humans away from their cars to steal their possessions, like to scare but not harm. Last seen near München, Germany, December of 2001. Now, we're going to talk about the Council of the Five Races. Now, the 5 races in question are the Orela, the Jinvo, the Raiden, and the Amurther. Little is known about these 5 races. Now I know that's 5 races. Okay. Other than that, the Emerther is the most important race, not just to the council, but to all races. They're related to the Calypsi ray, which is, we're going to get to the Calypsi ray. The Calypsi ray are the one species of gray that is good. They're much older and more advanced. They were instrumental in founding the council. They met with President Eisenhower on 3 different occasions and also met with 2 high-ranking USSR leaders in 3 different occasions. They tried to meet with President Nixon, but he refused. He refused because he was afraid that they would be able to read his mind and get national security details. So he said no. This council used to be the Council of 9. They have been protecting Earth and humans for as long as there have been records, for millions of years. The council last met on Earth in 1944. We also noted that they have been watching the evolution of mankind ever since the Anunnaki tampered with our DNA, and have been protecting us as they see humans joining the alien races with enlightenment and development. Next race is X1 Zulu, or X1Z. Only seen twice on Earth. Can shapeshift as many as 4 times in 10 seconds. Origin unknown. Abduct humans and perform medical experiments. Been visiting Earth since the mid-1500s. Only confirmed sightings have been near Elazig, Turkey. Got X5 Ticket, or Ticket, created by the race Mater to be used as slaves. Seen by the Mater to security-sensitive regions as messengers and to conduct abductions. Estimated less than 300 of the species as they are built from raw materials. They can live forever because they aren't human. They're non-organic. Now, guys, last seen on Earth, July of 97, near Brisbane, Australia. Something you might want to look into. Now, 2017 was mentioned in the Alien Race book by 3 to 4 different races as something significant going to happen. Kind of a warning. So, only contacted humans once in the USSR in 1935. Come from the galaxy UDFJ 3954624, estimated to be 13.2 billion light years from Earth. These guys were tall, blonde hair, and smelled like flowers. Now, they travel via wormholes. They spoke a Slavic dialect. There was a note written from these guys with 10 lines of which 9 of them were blacked out. What was read was simply 27 to 2022. So, something to look at is we're just now entering 2017. What's in store for the next 5 years? And like I said, there's a couple different references to 2017 from other races as well, that something's coming up in 2017. There's a doomsday prophet named T. Chase that predicts alien invasion that's being led by Jesus Christ himself in September of 2017 with the purpose of killing Putin. Yeah, okay. You know how many times I've heard a prediction like this? Whatever. But here's what I find funny. We're doing Paracon September 2017. So if anything happens in September 2017, everyone's going to be here. So there we go. What more can you ask for? He bases his prediction off his own interpretation of Nostradamus and Revelations. So on that note, there's also another prediction. There's another report circulating around that Biden was sent to meet with Putin to draft an agreement to cooperate towards a missile defense system to fight a mile-wide armada of alien craft that are supposed to be here September of 2017. So, actually, Steve, yeah, The reptilians think that the Earth is their own. They're one of them. They were here back when the Anunnaki came and seeded this planet, but the Anunnaki didn't know they were here. So they're one that thinks this planet is theirs, along with the Drapa. Not the Drapa, oh God, what was the elephant-looking one? Anyway, so moving on, 2017, we got the felines. This is the only reference to a cat-like species. The felines is one of two primary races in our universe. They were invited here by the founders. They are warm, intellectual, and as they mature, they take on a somber, gentle nature. The elders are revered for wisdom, compassion, and insight. The founders gave them a new planet in the Lyra constellation for their home. The felines named it Aeon. Eye color ranges from blue to gold. Devon is the name of the feline of the reigning patriarch of the 9 Delta royal house of Aeon, and Anu, who is a human, is the reigning patriarch of the 5 Delta royal house of Aeon at this time. So now we have the Gizon. Think of the Giza Pyramid. This particular race of people have been referred to by the Pleiadians, Billy Meyer contacts, and others. So there's a lot of references to this particular species by Billy Meyer and his, particular contacts, as well as they're in the Book of Alien Races. The Giza people have been referred to by the Pleiadians. They're a strange species. They've been seen in deep caverns beneath Egypt, seen by explorers that were dressed as ancient Egyptians. Now, there's a huge cavern beneath Egypt that is occupied by many involved in the U.S. secret government. This information is actually coming from Leading Edge Research. Now, if I remember right, Leading Edge Research is actually a magazine or a company. I've heard of them before. And this information is actually coming from them as well. So you got, multiple sources coming up with this. The Giza people may be a controlled society with the reptilians being the dominant power, although there's still much mystery. So now we're up to the Graysley. The Graysley are the same height as humans. They're covered with soft, silky hair. They have 2 home planets in the Virgo star system. They have visited Earth 12 times. Their first visit happened during the era of the Egyptian pharaohs, around 3,000 years ago. They spent 10 straight years there. The Djoser Pyramid was built in their honor. They have been watching human development for the last 200 years. Knowing some humans in power are being misled by negative aliens disguised as humans. Their ships only carry six of them at a time. Last sightings of them was July of 2002 and February of 2004. No known location. Now we come up to the Greys. We're going to... Let me look here. I think we're going to wrap it up with the Greys, because that's going to take a minute just to talk about the Greys. So remember, we're quitting at the G's, and we'll pick up the next show of alien species, starting with the H's. But we're going to stop here with the Greys, because the Greys themselves are 16 subspecies. The first species of the Grey that we're going to talk about is the positive species. And they come from Calypsi Ray. They are Greys. They come from the constellation Cygnus. Cygnus. They are peaceful and harmonious. They have one main leader named Martin. And they spell Martin weird. It's Ymartynn. Martin. Their civilization is 2 billion years old. They have no colonies, only focus on the development of other planets and races. These guys have one weapon, which keeps the violent races away at one-time Race Mater, which we'll get to next show. But Race Mater lost 5 ships because of their weapon. They say that the human race in the next few thousand years has 645 options to save ourselves, planet, and to guarantee a future for our race. That's really all that's known about Slipsy Ray. There's more known about the negative Greys because of what they do than there is to Slipsy Ray. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to hit the Greys that are in my notes list, and then I've got a whole other section of Greys to get into more detail. Because there's multiple subspecies of the Grey, not to be confused with Slipsy Ray. They can be from one. There's so many subspecies, they're all different. So they can go anywhere from 1 to 7 foot tall. Some have mushrooms, or mushroom white skin. Others have brown and some black skin. Some species have a thin membrane that crosses their eyes, which you see depicted on movies and whatnot of the Grey races there. Some have a wispy hair on their heads, Greys with 4 fingers, others with 3 to 4 fingers, and another finger positioned where the human thumb would be. Even some with suction cups on their fingers. There are believed to be 12 subspecies of the Grey, although I myself have heard of 16. So, you've got the short Greys from Zeta Reticuli and the Orion constellation, working with our military-industrial complex. This is also the species that crashed at Roswell, has been autopsied and is witnessed by Robert Dean, retired Command Sergeant Major. Also, Colonel Philip Corso, who served in the Eisenhower administration, claims to have witnessed the body of a Grey at Roswell. Also the same description as what was seen by Travis Walton, the abductee from Fire in the Sky. Also, Sergeant Clifford Stone, the NCO from the Army who was on a crash retrieval team when he was in, has stated that the Greys are one of the bad species in which the government doesn't know how to disclose to the public. Basically, what had happened was they made the government made their contract. Eisenhower made a contract with the Greys. So he agrees for, technology. You can abduct so many people. Basically, he sold out our own country, our own race. Now, they're doing what the hell they want. We can't control them. If he discloses to the public that this is going on, the public's going to know he sold them out. How are they going to confront that, And not to mention, I sold you all out and I don't know how to fix the problem. Well, there you go. So, the Greys are very active in human abduction, cloning, genetic experimentation, monitoring through implants, mind control programming, cloning and creation of hybrid humans. And we were sold down the drain, or sold out, by our own government. So there you go. So according to Command Sergeant Major Robert Dean, the tall Greys are 6 to 8 foot. Now, if you remember right, earlier in the show I mentioned that the Dracos are at the top of the food chain. They control the earthbound reptilians, who control the tall Greys. These are the tall Greys that are being referenced. The tall Greys are 6 to 8 foot, sometimes 9 foot tall. They're very pale, almost white. These ones come from the Orion constellation, a star we know as Betelgeuse, Betelgeuse. They play the overseeing role of the short Greys. The tall ones are the diplomats. They negotiate treaties with governments, while the short ones have been compared to mercenaries. Now, William Cooper, former naval intelligence, actually saw classified documentation. Right, exactly, Robert. Bye-bye. So William Cooper, the former naval intelligence, actually saw classified documentation from the tall Greys, negotiated treaties with the Eisenhower administration in the beginning of '54. Eisenhower told the press he had a dental appointment that day, actually, and he went to Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico for the meeting. They met again. So we're talking Eisenhower meets, these aliens more than once in 1971. There's actually a video footage was witnessed by producers Robert Emenegger and Alan Sadler in 1972-73. The tall white grays were also on Nellis Air Force Base, as witnessed by an Air Force serviceman named Hall. Charles Hall, if you recall. Charles Hall is actually quite famous for his documentation from 1965 to 67 because of the fact he actually interacted with the tall grays. It seems they're trying to save a dying race by using humans through absorption. They are inbreeding with humans through their human-gray hybrid program, which I've been researching since the early 90s anyway. Abducting human females for their hybrid program. Specialized grays are the taller species which are overseeing labs, and the smaller grays are the scientists and the doctors. Actually, it's reversed. Because actually the taller grays are the scientists and the doctors. So someone's got it wrong, based on my own personal research. The smaller grays are actually the minions that go out and do the abducting, and they're manipulated by the taller grays. The human females are taken, their DNA is tested for suitability, and then they are tagged. They're implanted much like we, tag animals for future abduction. There's a lot of disinformation out there, because I actually read on a whole other website about the implants that, we can't take the implants out because you will die. Well, tell that to Dr. Lear, because Robert Lear has taken the implants out with complete success. So, even doing the research for these shows, if I hadn't done research for the last 20 years, I'd be going, I guess I better tell people not to have implants taken out, but knowing that they have been taken out in the past, and also knowing from other people that they've been able to neutralize them with magnets, very large magnets at that, it can be done, and then they can't track it. So males are also evaluated, and if suitable, may be used to impregnate certain stock of human females to transfer certain traits to future hosts. So I go again to my other question of, if you're a good species of alien, why aren't you doing something to help stop this? Yeah, that's all they're tracking, Robert, is the abductees themselves. But, I've worked with abductees for over 20 years, and the crisis and the trauma that they go through, oh my God. It's really hard for me to hear from some of these abductees that, I've had a good experience. Really? How can you call an abduction a good experience? Now, you're either an abductee or you're a contactee. That's where I draw the line, because the abductee is taken against their will, and that's usually a negative experience. Whereas the contactee, they actually look forward to it. They're the ones that get taken over and over again and really don't have a negative experience. They're told information about the environment and how destructive humans are and how awful the planet is and yada yada. And yeah, I mean, I'm actually trying to figure out, we're trying to figure out ways to stop them, stop the abductions from happening. I just need to find the right person, the right abductee, to try some stuff that we're working with on. So getting back to this report, yeah. So we know they're implanting our abductees. Other activities include evaluating the nervous system and other systems to optimize ongoing development. One theory with the Greys is their connection with the U.S. government, as this was the race that made deals with Eisenhower. So, technology for the F-117 stealth fighter, the B-2 stealth fighter, that came from what they gave us, as well as the weapons called Joshua, which is an ultrasonic weapon. Also, according to this theory, the MJ-12, also known as the Jason Society, or Jason Scholars, gave the Greys a tract of land in the four corners of the United States Southwest, in which was built an underground base to make abductions for them easier. Other things I look at are fiber optics, cell phones, internet, computer technology. You know, there's a big jump, a very large jump in the last 50 years. Are humans smart enough to have done it? Sure they are. But in that kind of a small time frame, I would point that at the technology that was given to the government. The next race we're going to talk about is the Bellatrix Greys. This is where the folklore of little people comes from. These ones stand 1.5 foot. They're shorter than the type B Greys from Zeta Reticuli. They're seen more as dwarves and aggressive towards humans. In medieval times, they may have been what the Christians called demons. These are also ones that make their homes underground and are known as the Deros. Zeta Reticuli. They are also covered elsewhere in this report. This is only referenced in the Greys. These are the militant and world-conquering species. They are 3.5 to 4 foot tall with large heads and wraparound eyes. They are closely related to the insect family. They reproduce through cloning, which technology they have given the government. These are the race involved with cattle mutilations. They absorb certain substances from parts of the cattle to stabilize the cloning process. Have to catch my breath. This race has in their bases vats filled with animal and human organs floating with a purple liquid to hold the parts in suspension. Basically, this species swims in the mixture they get in the vats to absorb the nutrients through their skin. They're also the race known as little green men. They turn a green shade when they are lacking nutrients, and then they turn vicious, basically because I look at it as, I guess their blood sugar gets low and they turn angry. Their science concentrates on other life forms and genetic engineering. They have had a part in human genetics manipulation for thousands of years. So there seems to be two social classes. One is the more abrupt, crude, and blunt. The other more dove-like and business-minded towards humans. They prefer diplomacy when dealing with gaining control over humans. This seems to be the Greys referred to as the Orange. Allegedly, they are also able to extract a chemical from the human brain when eliciting fear, and it acts as a recreational drug. They have their best known bases in New Mexico and Nevada, but are also in many countries around the world. Now, hopefully you're following along, because I'm trying not to confuse anybody. Again, there's 16 different subspecies of these guys. We have the gray type C. They are tall, big-nosed grays from Orion. They're usually about 7 to 8 foot tall, facially similar to types A and B, with the exception of the large nose. They have the ability to cause seemingly miraculous actions. They are less vicious towards humans than the other types, but they're still hostile. They tend to influence through politics and negotiate agreements through those in power. Their main bases seem to be the Aleutian Islands, and they were seen not long ago in eastern Russia. So, we're going to go to some different notes. The Zeta Reticulans. This is the group of aliens who abducted Betty and Barney Hill in 1958. And these are the ones who have supposedly been doing the majority of the abductions. Some of this is going to repeat myself, and you'll catch that. They are said to have no emotions and little regard for human life. The dim point of light known to us as Zeta Reticuli is actually a binary star system, and its two stars are each very much like our own yellow sun. It is not visible in the northern hemisphere. In our Earth sky, it's approximately equidistant between the constellation Orion and the celestial South Pole. So the constellation Reticulum is a fairly small collection of faint stars. Now here's what I'm going to do too. Later on in the year, I'm going to take all these notes and information, and I'm going to put them in PowerPoint form. And I'll probably try to do this at Paracon, and more of a visual aspect along with the information. Basically, I'm going to get all these astronomical points and show you the actual planets, show you the actual star system, so you can actually kind of get a visual of where these star systems are in relation to these certain races. I find that because I love to do an astronomy course, just for my own benefit, because I'm not familiar with planets. I've never studied these. I can hear about them, and I'm familiar with their names and whatnot, but when you look at the night sky, my grandmother, when I was a kid, would point out, that's Orion's belt, and that's the Big Dipper, that's the Little Dipper, there's Andromeda, that kind of stuff. So I've been familiar with the night sky over the years, but you guys in the southern hemisphere have a whole different view of the sky. I remember being in Somalia, when I was in Somalia in '93, and Mars was right there, the red planet. Whereas you come back to America, you don't see the red planet like you did, closer to that hemisphere. So the constellation Reticulum is a fairly small collection of faint stars, of which Zeta is barely visible to the naked eye, even though it's relatively close to us, at approximately 40 light years right around the corner in galactic terms. So they feed off human and animal vital fluids by rubbing a liquid protein formula on their bodies, which is then absorbed through the skin. So like typical reptiles, which shed their skins, the waste is excreted back to the skin. The grays range from 3.5 to 4.5 foot tall on the average, with skin colors ranging from gray-white to gray-brown to gray-green to gray-blue. Aside from feeding off of human and animal proteins and fluids, they also allegedly feed off the life energy. Now, getting to the spiritual aspect, a lot of the spiritual side say that the Greys don't have a soul matrix, which is kind of what they've been striving to get to. And I am reading your comments, so I'm just trying to get through this. But yeah, I love pictures of Australia, Robert, by all means, and Andy. Like typical reptiles, okay, I've already done that. Their soul energy, yeah, I think they try to suck the soul matrix off some of the abductees, maybe. This is why those humans seen working with the Greys, implanted and programmed drones, whether willingly or unwillingly, have appeared lifeless and emotionless to the witnesses who observed them. So the Zetas, or Greys, live in the constellation Reticulum by the star Zeta 2 Reticuli. A planet was discovered there and then suddenly taken off the list. So, primary physical characteristics of the Greys. We'll get to that again, but hopefully you grasp it. The larger Greys apparently have some vestigial reproductive capability, and some of the hybrid species that have been crossbred with the taller reptilian species have full reproductive capability. It's the shorter ones that basically got sterilized in their own nuclear war. The brain capacity is estimated to be between 2,500 to 3,500 cc compared to 1,300 cc for the average human. Due to the cloning process, the neutral matter is artificially grown brain matter, and the Greys have known technology that enables them to insert memory patterns and consciousness into clones in any matter or pattern that they wish. The Greys consume nourishment through a process of absorption through their skin. The process, according to abductees who have witnessed it, involves spreading a biological slurry mixture that has been mixed with hydrogen peroxide, which oxygenates the slurry and eliminates bacteria, into their skin, or onto their skin. Waste products are then excreted back to the skin. Many abductees have noted that the Greys have a distinct series of odors. The larger Greys have a more pronounced nose. According to some government sources, these extraterrestrial biological entities call themselves the EBAN, E-B-A-N. It is with the larger Greys that elements of the government made a series of diplomatic agreements in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. The Greys are involved in the stockpiling of humans, including children, for use as a food source for the reptilian species, and as a lesser food source for themselves. Because you got to remember, these guys are also a slave race for the reptilians. There's one sect of them, or one subspecies of the gray, that they are slaves. They don't want to be slaves anymore. So if they were given the opportunity to fight the reptilians, if we were to take on the reptilians, I'm pretty sure they would. The other ones are happy with reptilians, as has been shown. Alien life form, ALF, term used by the government to describe the Greys in terms of being a malevolent life form. You got to remember, too, the Greys were also one of the species known at Area 51. So the deal with the Greys is that their field around their body is different to ours, to the point where merging with the fields ends up creating physical symptoms, the body terror mentioned by people like Willie Stryber. The field around them is in direct opposition to ours. It is an anti-life field, as these specific species are on a devolutionary spiral. They are akin to soldiers of fortune and offer other advanced technology and trade for things they require. They are experts at manipulation of both the human body, through manipulation of the fields, and the human mind. They require blood and other biological fluids to survive. You got to remember, too, earlier in the show we talked about they are also the species responsible for cattle mutilation. They abduct humans and animals in order to acquire these fluids. They implant small devices near the brain. I've worked with many abductees that had the same implant that was was up in the nose, the nasal cavity. Some were never been to a dentist, and they had fillings because these were the implants. There's also been cases where people had implants in the legs and the arms. These devices are difficult to detect. The analysis of the devices by technical staff has produced a description that involves use of crystalline technology combined with molecular circuitry, and these ride on the resonant emissions to the brain and the various fields of the human. So we're going to stop there now. We're going to go ahead and close the show out. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Don't forget, Wednesday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I will be putting out the Skype telephone number. We're having a kids show. Every time I go on the air and do a show, whether it's with Spaced Out Radio or S4, if my kids are up, they're begging and pleading, "Oh, Daddy, we got to listen to your show. Oh, Daddy, we got to come on the radio." Well, okay, you know what? In my belief, it's Yule. It's winter solstice. Perfect time to do a family show. So we're going to do Kids of S4, or also Kids of Forest Moon Paranormal. I've put it out to Forest Moon Paranormal already. If you have kids that want to come on and talk paranormal, our kids are 4 and 6, and they talk about Bigfoot. They talk about aliens. I mean, they're going by cartoons. They're going by what they hear Daddy talking about. And so we're going to do a kids show, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Wednesday. All the kids in our hemisphere are on winter break, Christmas break. So they'll all be out of school. And then we're also going to talk to the parents. If you want to talk to parents, people with kids, about the paranormal. When do you take your kids serious? How are kids affected by the paranormal? Things like that. So, there you go. And on that note, you're going to hear the music coming up. Thank you for listening. It's late. I know we went later than normal. But hey, we got a lot of material to cover. We'll finish up alien races probably in January. Because we're off next week. It's Christmas. And then it's January. So y'all have a good night. Thanks for listening. And have a great holiday.